Okay, so you all know who I'm here with. Talon and I are going to talk about something that I think we have been unpacking and wanting to talk about at some point, but didn't know how or when. And I feel like now that we're settled in to our house and we have a couch.
Yes, we have a couch. It's been 3 weeks with no couch.
So should we talk about the move?
Yeah.
The moving debacle, the great move chaos of 2023.
Yeah, we should.
I think we alluded to this in past episodes a bit, several months back, that our living environment was very unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode is probably speaking to a couple of different topics. One, the chaos that can be a bunch of people living in a small environment together, which we know in Portland is very common.
Mm-hmm.
The chaos of a person with a persistent mental illness living with other people
Mm-hmm.
in a small environment.
And I mean, all the people in the small environment with persistent mental illnesses.
Yes.
So.
And I think finally, enmeshment is like a big part of this topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, Talon, will you give a little bit of an overview? I mean, this story is so much more yours than mine. The story goes back so long in your life. So can you give an overview of like how we got to where we were? And then I'll fill everybody in when I come into the story in January, when I left my apartment and was back in my van, but ended up spending almost all of my time at the house with you.
Mm-hmm.
Give everybody an overview of the living situation.
Well, the house was purchased by me and an ex-partner in 2018. I had been dating her since 2015 at that time, and I had known her since like 2012, and her family since 2012. They were customers in my store. She ended up being like working at my store as a counter person and all that stuff. And we don't obviously need to go into it. It's your story, but I think that it's important to say that there was a lot of chaos surrounding the way that this person entered into your life. Yes. Yeah, there was. My relationship with my wife was very chaotic, and
You don't need to talk about anything you don't want to talk about. I think that we should just state for the record that the way that your ex-partner who you owned the house with entered into your life in a way that was very chaotic. I think we can leave it there.
No, I don't think we can. Okay. I think it's important that I say this out loud. I had an emotional affair. I emotionally cheated on my wife with this person, and I justified that by saying, oh, well, we didn't ever physically cheat. And in just the attempt to be transparent, not my best moment.
Well, you were young.
I was young and addicted and grappling with a lot of things like my transness and emotional and verbal abuse at work as well as at home. So I was in a pretty low, probably one of the lowest points I've ever been in my life. And this person entered into my life, and, she provided me with understanding and like a compassion that I hadn't felt or seen in years. Like, if we're going to be honest, like years. So that's kind of how that started, and I don't need to go into all the details with that, but we began dating shortly after my wife passed away, and we continued to date all the way up until 2020 is when we broke up. And we had been essentially in a non-monogamous relationship from 2019 to 2020, and I was not very pleased with like the treatment that I was receiving in the non-monogamous relationship, and I essentially said that in a way, and then essentially I was broken up with. So anyway, we purchased the house 2018. She continued to live there after we broke up because I could not afford it by myself, and I at the time was like very nervous about like roommates and money and all these things. So I was just like, a buddy of mine offered me a place to stay, and like it was out in the Southeast, and so I bought a new car. I had never owned a new car before, and he was like, make your car payment, come stay with me for free until you can get on your feet. It was amazing. I don't know what I would do or where I would be without that person. And then me and my ex, essentially, I really like leaned hard into going to therapy and really like leaned into like trying to figure out what I wanted. And at the same time, I did want to continue a friendship with her, something to that degree.
I don't know that a friendship is a fair assessment.
No. That's what I told myself that I wanted at the time. And then
and isn't that what we do when we love people, is we say we want to stay friends with them in order to keep them in our lives, and
totally.
we struggle to give ourselves the solo time or the kind of like grace period that is required between a romantic partnership and a friendship.
Totally. And that's, I completely wanted to skip over that solo time because it was very painful. And I mentioned like she met me at a low point, and I didn't really realize that I was still very much at that low point when she left. Instead of like doing work on myself during our relationship, I just kind of poured everything I had and everything I was into our relationship. And so when she left, I didn't really know what the point of anything was. And it's been a lot of work the last like 3 years unpacking all of that and realizing like, I skipped through we didn't speak for like 6 months, but like it was a 5-year relationship. 6 months not speaking is not enough time.
Well, and it's, you didn't.
No.
You didn't speak, but she kept your cats, and
yeah.
you were at her house every day with the cats
to see the cats and stuff.
So I mean, it's not.
It wasn't.
I don't think that you not speaking is a fair assessment.
No. I was gonna say it wasn't like no contact. There was like
Speaking of cats,
but like essentially like, for lack of a better term, I kind of fast forwarded through all that solo stuff to a point because it was very painful. And up until recently, I wasn't even really able to admit this to like even my best friends who were kind of like, my support through everything. Like I was like, like I didn't know if I was going to live through that. So I just fast forward through it instead of feeling it all the way. And I'm just kind of like in the last year or two is really like reprocessing a lot of that, which has been good, hard, but good.
I think like talk about a nightmare breakup. Like, I mean, my divorce was right around the same time, but
yeah, which is interesting.
the history in my relationship with my ex-wife is nowhere near the history that you had with your ex-partner. And, you know, you broke up in COVID and you broke up in a way that was maybe not fair to the practice of ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah.
And yet she's still allowed to make that choice, right? So it's kind of like hard to say not fair. It's like not fair from on your side, but also like fair that she gets to make that decision. And also like there's this underlying, this was the person who did offer you so much love and so much support.
Yeah.
As your wife died of cancer when you were 24.
Yeah.
And you gave every single ounce of you and more in supporting her end of life care.
I did.
At 24. I mean, like, the kind of like the trauma that ensued then, I don't think anybody could put words to, yourself included, right? Because it's like, how do you put words to that? And then there's this beautiful, like, kind, loving person who comes into your life and says, like, I'll be your family now. I mean, who would want to do anything different?
Yeah. Oh, and like, you know, like at the time, like, you know, my wife was sick and stuff. I was coming to terms with my transness and I had to put that away. There just wasn't room for that, you know, to process that and to come out. And, you know, I kind of picked up that self-discovery, you know, after my wife passed away and stuff like that. I was very much like, well, I don't want to live like I have been living, which is miserable. And this is something that I can like change because I know, you know, I've been feeling this way for a long time. And, you know, my ex was there and was like, yeah, I love you and accept you no matter what, you know, yeah, I love who you are, not, you know, how you present. So it was just like, it was it always felt like everything that I ever needed support in, she was there to support me. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that is something that there's, from an outsider's perspective, there's so many things that were maybe unhealthy. And I don't even know if that is like, I don't even know if that term really, like, again, envelopes it, but like there's so many things that were unhealthy about the relationship, incredibly enmeshed about the relationship, but we also can't ignore like the amount of love that went into the relationship that you all had. And part of it was because you just do love each other, right? And the other part of it is like, you have to love in order to survive. And you guys survived through a lot together. And she came into it with all of her own profound traumas as well. And so like,
Absolutely.
you know, when two people who are traumatized and young and not having access to resources to help process that, what do? We flock together.
And we hunker down and we just live, you know what I mean? Like, we were very poor when we first got together. She grew up very, very, very poor. And it was just like you kind of hit the nail on the head with that, is that like, yeah, we flock together and we just hunker down and you just, you know, you love the best you can, you live the best you can, and you survive the best you can, and then you just, hopefully it'll get better, you know, hopefully things will get better.
So fast forward, I think it did get better, and you both were in much better financial scenarios, and you guys did figure out a friendship, although I wouldn't say a super clearly defined friendship. But
no, it got more clearly defined as time went on, and
as you met me,
as I met you, and before. a little bit before. Like I had kind of
Well, okay, let's not ignore that on our first date you said that she was the person you were going to end up with when you died.
right.
So
I know. We're not gonna let that go. But
what I did want to say though is that like you guys, when I met you, had been deeply enmeshed in each other's worlds for
so long.
And you guys had come out of that poverty that you were living in and the day-to-day traumas that you were living in, right? Like life was pretty stable and pretty good when I met you. What hadn't changed was the lifestyle of trauma and poverty.
Yes.
And one of the things that happened in that household is take anyone in and let them stay because that's, again, you flock together, right? And so that family system, some of whom are biologically related and some are not, who were living in that house that you were renting in when I met you, very chaotic, very enmeshed, no boundaries whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so fast forward to when we met, you know, like I met your ex-partner because she was your best friend and you stayed over with her 3 nights a week and slept in her bed and still.
That was, before I moved back in as a renter.
Yeah. And again, I'm not quite sure that it was just a friendship. I mean, like, you hadn't yet moved back in with her, but you're staying the night with her 3 nights a week, grabbing her tits in your sleep. You guys would kiss goodbye. Like this, I think that we want to say that this was a friendship. But I think what it really was like ethical non-monogamy was a good mask for you all hadn't yet released your I will always have this person as a backup under the guise of friendship, but we're both in ethically non-monogamous relationships, so we can do things as friends like cuddle and kiss and whatever.
That's totally fair. That's like completely fair. And you had presented me with that, I think, kind of right in the beginning, and I was like, no. And then slowly I was like,
well, and
yeah.
I was still in my primary partnership with Andrew at the time, and so I didn't have really skin in that game.
Right.
I remember thinking I absolutely would not be in a relationship with Talon given this current dynamic in his life because there's not clear boundaries. And I'll never forget, I was in my laundry room or my closet and you were sitting on my bed, or we were both sitting on my bed and we were looking at my closet like mirrors or something. I'm not sure. And I turned to you and I said, I don't think I understand why you put her on a pedestal. And I said, and I'm not saying this to shame you, but I want to understand why this person is a person that you put before yourself.
Yeah.
And
you did say that.
like, it was just, it was a really interesting dynamic to observe, especially as a clinician. It was just like, there's no place at which these two humans start and end outside of one another. And like, up until maybe a couple months ago, she was still your beneficiary and all of these things. And I think like people listening to me may think that the way that I'm talking is presenting with a kind of jealousy. And there have been points in time where I was jealous, not because of her or their relationship, but because of some of Talon's behavior that we can talk about. But like, really for me, it was like, I have worked really hard to remove myself from relationships that are enmeshed. And I don't feel like I can expose myself to relationships that are so heavily enmeshed, because as a person with borderline and as a person with very unique family systems, generational trauma that has involved a lot of enmeshment, this is a risk for my mental health.
Right. And
because I'm really likely to become enmeshed with people, especially people who, like that family, present as we are a family. We will take you in. We will never let you go. You are safe here.
We accept you. We love you. Like like no matter what.
And I did fall into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard not to, when someone welcomes you with open arms and are like, no matter what you are, don't even worry about it. We'll take care of you. We love you, whatever. It's hard not to be like, oh, okay. Like, particularly like, as somebody who I feel like I've always probably wanted like that feeling. Like I remember like being a little kid and wanting that feeling of like family, like they love you and they like express love very like obviously and outwardly. Like my mom's love language was acts of service, right? My mom,
but they weren't soft or kind.
But they weren't soft or kind. It was like, my mom like it was so subtle. Like I didn't even know, like one night she had like stayed up really, really late, even though she had to go out of town for work the next day to like wash clothes for me. And I could do my own laundry, but like my mom always like generally did laundry because it was just, she was faster and easier and it got done, right? So, and she told me this years and years and years later, but like I had a presentation at school. She knew that and she stayed up late to make sure my clothes went into the dryer, went in for a second cycle so they would be dry and ready for school the next day so I could just pull them out of the dryer and go. So like I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's not inherently like received as love to you as a young person.
Right. So, I had always really wanted like what I thought was like stereotypical like acts of love and service. And I'm a very like physically like lovey person.
And verbal.
And very verbal. You know what I mean? So, and then here I am presented with essentially this family dynamic where they do that, and it's,
they're very good at that.
Yeah.
And they're very good at taking care of their own.
Yes.
Much to the detriment of themselves, I think, at times.
Completely.
And again, like when we talk about this particular family, I think it's important to say that like this is a family of people that I do believe are very good.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that they have great capacity to have really healthy relationships with one another and those external to them. And just like my mom's family and even the way it impacts me, we can't outrun the socialization of poverty, right? So even if you're in a 2-bed, 1-bath home, if someone needs a place to stay, you always let them in. And so when I came into the mix, there was 8 people in a 2-bed, 1-bath home.
Yes. Yes, there was.
And let's pick up there. Let's kind of fast forward to what happened.
Yeah, so I moved back in as a renter, and yeah, the amount of human beings that were in the building at the time was
probably
less.
Not up to code.
No, but it was less. It was more manageable. And then, but yeah, by the time Sarah was spending the night with me pretty much every night, it was cold and
it was too cold for me to be in the van.
Yeah, and we didn't really want to.
We didn't want to be a
part, like, because we were really just in it. And essentially, yeah, like everybody in the family, they met Sarah, like, oh my God, I love her, she's amazing. And because she's awesome, she's great. She's hard not to love. Very, 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 very sweet, charming human being. And this family in particular, I think that they thought, I don't know. I don't know what they thought. It very much seemed like they liked you for me. And they seemed, very happy that I was with somebody who cared about me and loved me and, wanted to do the work with me and stuff like that, you know. And yeah, so we were all living there, and then my ex moved out of the house.
And when she moved out, the dynamic changed a bit.
Yeah.
Not significantly. And we still kind of had that like family feeling, I think, for the first little bit. But when she moved out, I started to learn about things that hadn't been previously told to me.
Yeah.
So at this point, Talon and I had been dating for quite a while, and I learned that you guys were engaged at one point, but you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
And I also learned that breakup included the ethical non-monogamy scenario of the other person living in the basement.
Yeah.
But nobody told me that, which, you know, you would think that these aren't big things, but as someone who went into this relationship with you practicing like complete transparency, which you have to do in ethical non-monogamy. I mean, not trauma bonding, not telling every part of your story, but you do need to be transparent about these other dynamics and relationships in your life. When I found out that you guys had been engaged and you hadn't told me, and we were like 6 months in, and when I found out that she had moved her other partner into the basement and that was a part of your breakup and you hadn't told me, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I told you everything, and you told me that you were telling me everything, and now you're not. Why are you trying to protect this person more than you're trying to practice honesty with me? And so that, I think, really alienated my ability to have a healthy and safe relationship with her moving forward, because it's like, I've put everything I've had into being here with you and building these like honest relationships with people in your life who are important. And I did this under the assumption that I clearly understood the dynamics here. And wait a minute, the dynamics are not the dynamics are not as they were presented to me.
Yeah.
And that was a huge disservice to me.
It was.
And that took a lot of time to repair.
Yeah, it really did.
And I do think that for me influenced how I navigated the relationships with the family system moving forward, in terms of like, I am not going to become so enmeshed with these people that I allow for a lack of transparency, again, under the guise of, well, we're a family.
Yeah. And you setting that boundary, and you and I having that conflict really forced me to look at the way I was behaving. Yeah, and like, you know, why I wasn't being transparent. And we had, you know, countless conversations about it. And we had multiple like conflicts about it.
And I think that was the because this must have been like, let's see, we started dating July. I mean, like, dating means seeing each other. Our primary partnership didn't start until, right around the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023. But we've been seeing each other since July, and we really started to, like, seriously connect in around October. And this was January.
Yeah.
And so I was,
February.
January, February. And so I just felt like dumbfounded, like, wait, what? And it was probably the first time you ever really saw my borderline symptoms, because in terms of like splitting behavior. And because I think I said, I fucking hate you once. And I think I said, you two are fucking idiots. And then and I'm laughing because, like, on the scale of 0 to borderline from hell, that's like a 2.5.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm proud that
you said more things. Like, you basically just, like, repeated the same 3 things.
Sure, but I don't think
But-
I said I hate you and you're a fucking idiot more than, like, once or twice.
No, you said I hate you, like twice. One was all caps. And
Sure.
then one was regular.
But again, we are in a very healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I think even people that don't have mental illnesses every, once a year or something are like, you're being a fucking idiot, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
did you feel like I was abusing you?
no.
Okay.
No. And, like, your behavior, I understood.
Well, I mean, that is idiotic.
Yeah.
How are you going to be with someone for like 6 months and not be like, oh, by the way, the person whose home you're living in, I was engaged to, haha.
Yeah, no, and no,
Like,
and
what?
no, and like, and that's the whole thing is like,
And we're only talking about this again to show the level of enmeshment and like
Yeah.
the strong desire that y'all had to like keep each other safe and protect each other.
yeah, and like, I do want to point out that like a lot of my like, when I really like thought about it and like talked about it in therapy and stuff like that, is I was stuck in that enmeshment and trying to protect that enmeshment, and I was trying to protect myself, because if I thought about those things, looked at those things again, I would have to like reprocess them and be like, no, that was fucked
really
up.
process them.
Like, really process them and be like, no, that was fucked up. Like, she did treat me shitty. That was horrible. And like, that was really hard for me, because I had been like essentially like taken in by this family and her, and and like, they were supposed to take care of me.
And you were supposed to take care of them.
And I was supposed to take care of them. And there was like,
when we admit that people have done wrong to us or we have done wrong to people, then generally speaking, there would be a fracture in the relationship. But when you operate in a family system that is so trauma bonded and so like survival based, there isn't space for family system fractures.
Correct, because the whole thing falls apart.
And you couldn't. And honestly, like if that family system did fall apart today, there are multiple people who would not be able to remain housed in a safe environment.
Yes.
And we were not one of those people.
No.
And your ex isn't one of those people,
Right.
but she does have this heavy weight on her shoulder that she has taken on.
Yes.
In some enabling behavior towards other people in her life that she allows to be housed in her home. But again, I don't understand that lived experience, so I can't sit here and say anything negative inherently about it.
Yeah.
I can say it's unhealthy. That's not negative. That's just fact.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing is like, I always used to joke, like, once you live poor, you die poor. Even if you come up, your parents are a great example.
My parents are a great fucking example.
Jesus
Christ.
It's really hard to break out of that cycle and that mentality of living paycheck to paycheck, the trauma of not knowing if you're going to pay your rent, the stress and the trauma of having roommates.
Yeah. And I had never shared a bathroom before.
Yeah. That was new for you.
And I do think that I need to own a couple of things. One, I come into this family system with a profound amount of privilege in that I didn't grow up poor.
Right.
And I grew up in a way that allowed me to be embarrassed by things that are commonplace in poverty. And I'm not going to feel shame about that because I can't control the way that I was raised. But my parents are a good example, right? Like parents had the Rat Pack until Daisy passed away. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Queen.
R.I.P. Queen. And so now they just have Pebbles and Maria, and Pebbles is 12. Oh my God. And Maria is like 9, and Maria is a 9-year-old schnauzer poodle dachshund mix.
She is?
She's a schnoxy poo. Tell me that's not the gayest thing you've ever heard.
She looks like a loaf of bread.
I digress. She's not potty trained at 9 years old. And my parents, for like 8 years, just had this carpet upstairs that was a very strong visual reminder of how Maria wasn't potty trained. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, Dad, you own a construction company. Mom, like money isn't an issue for you guys. Why? You can go to Mexico. You can go to Arizona. You guys do that twice a year. Why don't you just have the carpets replaced? And why don't you just put in a baby gate so that the dogs are downstairs on the hardwood all the time? I mean, fast forward 7 years later, and they did that last year. But like, I went into my parents' home for like 6 years, just mortified to bring anyone over because I didn't want them to see the carpets.
Yeah, you over-explained it to me when we went over.
You saw the carpets?
Yeah.
Oh my God. See, that's how recent.
Yeah, because it was a big deal because I
it is.
remember
And it was
Sherry and Chad were like,
it was
so
mortifying to me.
Sherry and Chad were so am I not allowed to say their names?
Oh, you can.
They were so stoked that they were getting new carpet. They was like one of the first things Chad asked me. He's like, Talon, did you see the carpet? I was like, I did. It looks great. It was like a huge deal. And I was like, your parents are fucking rich. Like, why are we celebrating this carpet? Like, what is going on? And then we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand. I was like, they're rich. Like, why?
Right.
They don't just get new carpet like every 5 years. Like, rich people probably do. I don't know what rich people spend their money on. But
No, my dad doesn't own a vehicle or a cell phone.
yeah, it's all like work stuff.
Those are company vehicles.
Yeah.
But so
yeah. You live poor, you die poor.
You live poor, you die poor in behavior. And I don't have that experience. So going into the home that I went into with you because I wanted to be with you all the time, it was a culture shock. And I think probably the worst thing that could have happened to that family in me coming in happened because things don't roll off my shoulders.
No.
In that
way.
If someone is going to ask me something, and a lot of people in the family would ask me questions about mental health, I'm not going to bullshit you. Yeah. I'm not going to be unkind.
No.
But I'm going to tell you the truth. And people don't always want the truth. And I think that because people especially would ask me questions about mental health and especially would ask me questions about like the dynamic of your and my relationship, it was an indicator of what an outsider I was to the family system and therefore like what a scapegoat I became.
Yes, completely.
So, okay. Do you want to talk about what happened?
Yeah, so
we gave
basically
so much background.
Yeah, we gave a lot of background.
Did I miss out on anything?
No, I think that's the gist of
Okay, do you feel like
everything.
I spoke for you too much?
No.
Okay.
No, I think when it comes to like speaking about that family, everything that you said is how I feel. And saying that out loud is still really hard for me because like, just because you've removed yourself, just because you have attempted to unenmesh. And I do want to say that I did have a couple of conversations with my ex about unenmeshment and that it was important to me to have clearer and healthier boundaries moving forward.
And she agreed.
And she agreed. You know, there were conversations, and all of them I started. All of them I brought up, and there was never any follow-up from that other side, which at first I was like fine with because I'm like, oh, well, we don't have anything else to talk about. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, no, like maybe a follow-up would have made me feel more secure. Because looking back, like a follow-up on that would have been really co-creative.
Yeah.
and made me feel like she was on board with a healthier relationship for us.
Yeah.
Like a healthier friendship for us.
That would have
been really cool.
That would have made me feel secure too, because like,
Same.
here's the
Yeah.
thing is like, she's really sweet. She's really nice.
Yeah.
And like, I would have really liked to have been able to continue a friendship and a relationship with her and the family. Like, there was so many wonderful times, but I was really alienated from my ability to have secure relationships because of, one, just being an outsider and having a different perspective, and two, the fact that things were like important things were hidden from me, right? So that always kind of puts a person's heckles up, so to speak. But so
I don't really want to like go into like a lot of detail about what happened.
Neither do I.
But essentially, somebody in the house, not my ex because she had moved out, somebody in the house began giving Sarah and I the literal cold shoulder, like stonewalling, not speaking to us.
Like literally did not look at me or say hi to me for an entire week. And this person and I had been like hanging out every single night because Talon was working late, and
texting
I was like, oh my God, I have a friend. Like this is so fun. We were like dyeing our hair together, and we were watching documentaries, and we were talking about boys, and we were like, you know, doing the thing where we talk about our moms. And this person felt like a
friend,
and a little sibling to me that I'd never had. And again, it's important that I own that I am a person that's going to always look for family, which is why families like this are, I am at risk of falling back into my own codependency and my own enmeshment when I'm invited into something that feels so loving, because I am always looking for the family that my father and mother could never give me.
Yes. And I do want to say, like, they each love bombed you in their own way, and their love bombing, I will say, is very subtle, and I don't think intentional. So I don't want to be like, oh, they did it on purpose. They didn't.
No,
they were excited, and I do still.
Well, they were really excited. I was around because I'm fun.
Yeah, you're fun. You're fun as fuck. You're charming. You're great. You know,
we did things together that
you're sweet, you're considerate, you're inclusive, you invite both of them. Like if you and I were going to the park to walk the dog, you invited both of the roommates every single time. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
morning pancake breakfast and going to the mountain and the things that I like to do, but also again, probably the things I do to Vaughn. Like I need to own that.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, after we'll say just like months of like developing these relationships pretty quickly and intensely on their side and on our own side. Yeah. Because we were excited, you know. I was excited that you were welcomed and people, you know, kept telling me, oh my God, I love Sarah. She's so amazing. And I'm like, yeah, like she is, you know, it's cool when people you've known forever see how much you love your partner and how awesome she is, because you're great. You're amazing. You know, and then all of a sudden we're stonewalled, we're cold shouldered, and so Sarah and I.
Well, and it was over something that was seemingly to us very small. It was about us canceling plans and then last minute, and then that person feeling whatever they felt. I'm not going to speak for them. And
because we still don't know.
Yeah. They ignored us in the house for an entire week, which if we had been ignored in my parents' house, maybe it wouldn't be an issue. But when you're living in 800 square feet, and you have to walk past bedrooms to get to the bathroom, being ignored is very obvious. Yes. And intentional.
Yes. And so we asked them about it, talked to them about it, and seemingly we thought we squashed it.
Yeah, we did have a repair conversation where I said, like, I need you to know, like, I'm not an inherent member of this household. Yeah. So I don't automatically feel like I'm allowed to be here or belong here. Yeah. And if you ignore me the way that you did, I
It's very isolating.
It's very isolating. It's very rejecting. And all I need you to do is tell me, oh, I've got this other thing going on in my life right now that it's making me so that I don't feel like I can talk.
Yeah.
And I thought we all had agreed that that was the way it was going to be moving forward. And I think we had a few,
we did.
we had a few good days after that. Your
Like,
birthday.
Yeah, like three days, and then all of a sudden it was back, and it didn't get better.
Yeah, it was very, very obvious to the point of like, I would be in the living room and this person would talk to Talon and not me.
Yeah, and in that time, as it's getting worse, the two roommates are slowly hanging out together every single night. No exaggeration. Every single night when they had not been doing that previously.
Yeah.
And essentially it escalated. And
Well, it was just so confusing because it was like, wait a minute, all four of us are hanging out together, watching docs at night, tattooing, ordering food, just
now all of a sudden
kicking it.
They're in each other's room, not speaking to us. The one roommate who wasn't directly involved still was kind of talking to us, but not really. And at one point, Sarah and I had kind of tried to reach out to him and be like, do you know what's going on? Because like this other roommate isn't speaking to us. And the second roommate essentially was like, oh, I don't want to get in the middle of it. I don't want to have this be a shit talking fest, and basically like shut us down. And so we didn't approach them again, obviously, because like, I don't know, for me, when, and like, please keep in mind that like these two roommates I have known for 10 years.
Okay, let's give a little bit of background.
What?
Can we just give a little bit more background about that?
I don't.
The one roommate was previously involved in the family by marriage, and then the marriage terminated, and then
They wound up on the couch.
They wound up on the couch living within this household that's connected to the person they were married to and are no longer married to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, speaking to the level of enmeshment.
Yeah, and I've known this particular roommate for 10 years, and we have had a relationship separate, like friendship, like hanging out. We were buds, external to their relationship with my ex's sibling, all these things.
Yeah.
Like we were really good friends. We had like a weekly D&D thing that we did for years. Like this is a whole thing. And, you know, so essentially like Sarah and I are on the couch and we kind of like approach the subject of like, hey, the other roommate's ignoring us. Like, and this person who I thought was my friend first, I'll just say that, because our relationship was closer than with the other roommate, just shuts us down. And it felt very out of character to me. Looking back, I was very like, what the fuck? Like, I essentially just talked you through the ending of your relationship for like 6.5 months. Like, you can't give me 20 minutes to be like, hey, like, this environment that the other roommate is creating by ignoring us feels very hostile. What should we do?
And,
I don't know.
You know, it would be one thing to say, I don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens when you live in a household that's that small.
Yes.
You can't not get involved because you don't have the luxury of being there and being involved in the dynamics every day. So like,
Right.
you know.
Well, and like if you're going to say, I don't want to get involved, then that means that for me, your behavior towards me and your behavior towards them needs to be the same.
Yeah.
If you are hanging out hard with me and not them and saying you don't want to get involved, you're involving yourself. If you're hanging out hard with them and not me and you don't want to get involved, you are involving yourself. You have chosen a side to me.
Right.
I don't know if that's too black and white, but that's how it feels
and
watching it.
And that's the conversation that needed to have been had, but the conversation was shut down.
Right.
So eventually I just unfollowed this one person on Instagram because I have the right to.
Mhm.
It's my Instagram, my social media. I don't really want someone following me on Instagram and like seeing what's up in my life when I live with them and they are literally not talking to me. So I blocked them on Instagram because every time I saw their stuff pop up on my Instagram, to be honest, it was this like visceral reminder
Yeah.
and like trauma reaction in my body of like being rejected by
Totally.
this person that I thought I was good friends with.
Totally.
And that is when shit got worse. They mentioned it to me, and I was basically said just that. Like, when you ignore me in this household, I feel incredibly rejected. So seeing you pop up on my Instagram is a reminder of that, and I don't want that. I want to have a relationship with you, but I need you to engage in friendship building behaviors.
Yeah, and friendship supportive behavior, and this isn't it. And I don't want to
have friends in my life like this.
Right.
And I never said, I don't want you to be my friend. I said, I need you to engage in friendship supporting behavior. And at that point, then they started.
Well, I do want to say that all of your texts were met with, I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not ignoring you. We already talked about this. Like, that's
like, how
all.
are you not ignoring me? Like, it's literally, it's like everybody can see it.
Yeah. So, and then that's when the two roommates started hanging out even heavier, and my ex, all of a sudden, they're all three hanging out over at my ex's new house and all this stuff. And it was just like,
they invited you to a birthday party, but not me, but like didn't tell you where and when it was, and then got mad at you for not going.
And didn't really invite me. They essentially said, you can come if you want. That is not an invite to me.
Right.
And I guess I will say like that's never been an invite to me. I don't go where I'm not wanted. And it was like, yeah, you can come if you want. They'd really like it if you came.
Yeah, but like a birthday invitation is like, it's this day, this time at this place.
Yep.
Please come.
Yep. Didn't tell me when or where, how to get there. Didn't text me to be like,
the day
hey,
of.
yeah, are you coming? You never said. Like,
so at the it's very, very blatant. And then that person locked us out of the basement where the laundry was. And so this is
because essentially like I had some stuff down in the basement that I was going to pack up because we were moving. Me and that roommate had gotten into a conflict because they essentially did not allow me to finish a conversation that I was having, and basically pulled the person that I was having the conversation with or attempting to have the conversation with out in the middle under the guise that they were running late. They needed to go, and we got into a conflict about that. And then I had some things in the basement that weren't fully packed up, and I was going to pack them up. And the day I was actually going to text this roommate, like, hey, when do you want me to come down? Because they lived in the basement. They had already packed my things up, moved them upstairs, all my records, my wife's ashes, and they just had packed everything in cloth bags, willy-nilly, stuff upside down. And I went downstairs and was like, did you move my things? And they said, oh, well, I had to because you're moving out, basically. And I have to, switch because they were going to move upstairs and the other roommate was going to move downstairs, whatever.
Oh, I forgot the part where they were talking about the other roommate for like 3 months, saying they hated them and they wanted them to move out.
Oh, yeah. But, whatever.
And then all of a sudden they hate us.
Yeah, now they hate us.
It's just
a lot of triangulation.
I don't think we need to get into all of it, but it's like
a lot of triangulation, a lot of manipulation. And essentially Sarah and I were saying, like, you can't treat us like this. Please stop treating us like this. And every time we did that, we were met with
that's not what we're doing.
That's not what we're doing. That's not what's happening. Nobody owes you sympathy. Nobody feels bad for you. These things that are happening to you are your fault. And essentially Sarah and I were like, you guys are basically being microaggressive.
Yes.
They then said, we're not being microaggressive. Anything that you perceive that is happening on purpose or on accident is on you. And I literally was like, that's what a microaggression is. They defined microaggression. in their defense of what they were not doing to us.
Well, and so when we got locked out of the basement and whatever, I was like, okay, well, like this went from just microaggressions to literal tenant to tenant harassment. You
because
cannot
the laundry was
you
in the
cannot
basement.
lock us out of a shared space where the laundry is. And then after that, they started only entering the house in and out of the back
the side door,
and
side gate.
my dog was in the backyard and they left the gate open, and I didn't know, because why would I think that my dog would get out of a gate that she can't get out of? Well, lo and behold, they didn't close it. Nova was found a couple streets over on a very busy road, and I texted and was like, I am done with the harassment and the enmeshment and the triangulation. Essentially, like, thanks, but no thanks. I will not do this any longer. My dog could have died. And they said, I didn't leave the gate open. I left it open because I thought you guys were moving the stuff out. So I didn't think it needed to be shut. And I was like, why would you? First of all, we weren't outside. Second of all, even if we were outside, you know that my dog goes in and out of the gate. So not closing the gate is a very blatant attempt at essentially targeting me for the feelings of discomfort that this person has had by me saying, this is tenant to tenant harassment. This is unacceptable. This is emotional gaslighting.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have treated other people in the household the way that you are treating us. That is the exact definition of harassment. And I like cited the law because I was like, I don't know what else to do to make these people understand that all we wanted was you to own your behavior and apologize and repair with us.
Or
we apologized for canceling last minute. We owned that we should have not canceled last minute and we should have communicated better. We said we were sorry. We said we want to support friendship behavior.
Yeah.
We said we wanted to repair, and the discomfort that them having to own their behavior and the consequences of their actions was, I think, too significant for where they're at in their life. And that's really unfortunate because what resulted in was a very firm boundary that I set that I will not have connection with people who are going to put my dog's life at risk.
Yeah. And again, any bid for like us trying to like get any accountability from them was literally met with, I'm not doing that. That's not what's happening. This is all your guys' fault. This is your guys' responsibility. You should have checked the gate. All of these things. And it essentially was very crazy making. And Sarah and I had multiple conversations of like together where we're like, are we crazy? And
like, is this all my fault? Right. Am I the reason for this?
I do want to reiterate that this isn't like a roommate.
No, these are people that you
have known.
You were going to legally marry into this family.
Like, these are people I've known for 10 plus years. These are people who were some of my best friends, my family. And these are people who are acting like they don't know me. These are people who are not reaching out to me when they know what's happening in the household to see if I'm okay. Like.
And the reason is because the individual it was centered around, people aren't yet prepared to navigate the impact of setting more firm boundaries with them around this behavior is unacceptable.
Yes. And this behavior that this particular roommate we're talking about, they have done these types of things since I've known them. I have had a couple of instances where I've gone multiple, like 6 months to a year without speaking to them because of not small, I shouldn't say small, because of microaggressions like this. And at the time, like when I was with my ex was like, just wanted to keep the peace. And I was like, well, I don't want to speak to them. Like, you can go see your sibling, but I'm not going. I don't want them, so I had set firm boundaries around that, and that caused conflict between me and my ex, to the point where like I just finally was like, whatever, like, and removed myself emotionally from that part of that family the best I could to kind of protect myself from stuff like this. So essentially, yeah, it all basically boiled over.
Oh, my favorite was when we got locked out of the house, but they told us that it was our fault because we didn't have keys.
Right.
But the house has an electronic lock
with
codes.
It's a number pad. And I want to say that lock was installed so no one would ever get locked out. That was the intention of installing that lock, because all of us are very forgetful, and my ex had forgotten her keys one time and she was like, never again, I don't ever want to be locked out of the house again. She installed that number lock, gave us all codes, with the understanding that
you never lock the
bottom. You never lock the bottom lock, and the number pad.
Right. The deadbolt.
No, baby, the deadbolt's the big boy. That's the deadbolt.
What the fuck ever. The deadbolt on the electronic thing. You never lock the bottom one.
You never lock.
You always use your key code. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny that the only time
this has been years.
The only time that the lock was ever turned was when Talon and I ran out to get Muchas Gracias, and we get home at like midnight, and why would we take the house key? We wouldn't. We drove my car, which means Talon didn't have his house key to the house. Yep. We get home and the house is locked, and we like knock on the doors, make a lot of noise, and we aren't allowed in. Nobody comes to let us in.
It was 11 o'clock.
And they said, this is like honestly hysterical looking back. This person said, well, I didn't lock the bottom lock.
You're the only one home.
Wait, I don't understand. Like, do you think that maybe the cats jumped on is there a ghost? Like, I'm not, but then the group chat that we put in, when I said, like, again, this is an example of tenant to tenant harassment, you would not lock that bottom lock on any other member of the household, and you did this specifically to us.
They all jumped all over us and were like, this is your own fault. Locking yourself out of the house because you forgot your keys isn't harassment. All these things, and we finally, like, Sarah and I got
the harassment is, if anybody else had locked themselves out, you would have answered the door, and you did not answer the door to us. That is preferential treatment to other parties in the home and not us. That is the legal definition of harassment.
Yeah, and Sarah and I basically like came to a point where we, like, at that time, like I said, like something along the lines of like, there's no point.
Yeah, never again.
And she finally was like, yeah, you're right. Like, nothing's going to get through to these people. And I was like, no, it really won't.
And I think, like, going back to the strengths-based perspective of this family, right? You protect your own. And even when presented with factual, logical evidence, you deny it in order to protect your own, because acknowledging that the behavior of one long-standing party within a family system is inappropriate dismantles the entire family system. And so what do you do other than make the external party a scapegoat? I mean, I know that this is intellectualization, which is a cognitive distortion that we essentially ignore our feelings by applying logic, and that is what I've had to do to compartmentalize the severe feelings of rejection and abandonment that I have felt that never needed to be like this.
Yeah.
All we needed to be met with was the same level of accountability that they asked us to take.
Or not even like
by saying that we canceled the dinner last minute.
Or not even like like, yeah, I'm doing this, I want to repair, but like, yeah, I fucking hate you guys and I'm not over it. Just like everybody
just say that.
everybody was pretending like everything was fine. Everybody was pretending like everything was fine and that we were
Like
the
we just
problem.
didn't exist.
Like they were saying we're not behaving differently, but then the three of them are meeting outside of the house
Yeah,
to talk.
and what's really interesting is
Like,
the person that locked us out had been for months saying they hated every other single person in the family.
yeah,
That like every other person in the family had done X, Y, and Z things to them.
Yeah.
And so like looking back now, I can see how I was at one point the favorite person and then became the scapegoat. And
Yeah.
I think like for me, it was a really interesting experience to be on the receiving end of a lot of the symptoms that we talk about in this podcast and how hurtful it is to be on the receiving end. And I think it was really good perspective for me. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that anybody that we're talking about has any specific mental illness. That is not my place, and I'm not doing that. But triangulation and
manipulation,
even when I don't think that their intent was to manipulate, I think their intent was to protect themselves from their own big feelings. But it was received by Talon and I as manipulation. And ultimately, we are so happy now, but it was a really big test of our partnership. And it was a really big test for me of like, okay, I'm going to set a firm boundary that I would have never set in saying, you can have relationships with these people, but if you do, our relationship has to end, not because I'm giving you an ultimatum, but because my mental health cannot handle undergoing another scenario like this. It puts me at too high of risk.
And I kind of came to, and I accepted that, and was very like, are these old relationships that are like this, right? Like, how do I come back from this? Even if I was to repair with these people, like, first of all, do I want to repair? Do I want to do that work? Like, looking back, like, how many of the good conversations or the communications that we've had, how many of those were spurred on by me? How many of those were spurred on by the work that I've done? Do I want to continue relationships with people who can treat me this way and make me feel so small and make me feel so unwanted and unloved in a home that, I'm sorry, none of them would have access to if it weren't for how hard I worked?
Well, at that point in time, I agree.
You know,
I think they all would have been able to figure out what they had eventually, but but you were a big part of the purchase of that home and the ability to get that home when you guys got it.
Yes, and make it affordable and all these things. And so
I didn't say that to invalidate you. I said that to give credit to them too.
Yeah, no, I know.
Did that feel invalidating?
No, I just like think that you're giving them more grace than they deserve.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I do also think it's important to know that I have definitely had my fair share of being like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck them.
Yeah,
privately.
Yeah.
I have definitely.
Yeah,
I have expressed.
You have.
I have expressed my borderline thoughts and feelings many a time.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's productive for me to do that here.
Totally fair. I don't remember what I was saying, but basically, like, when you gave your ultimatum.
It wasn't an ultimatum, it was a boundary.
Sorry.
I said, if you want to remain connected to them, you can.
Right.
But I can't.
Right.
And I can't remain connected to them through you because I will ruminate, I will obsess, and it will result in me splitting on you. Right. I did not tell you can't see them. I simply said it won't work for me in my life, and I need to know before we move forward in purchasing a home together if this is a relationship that you plan to continue to keep.
Yeah.
Because I have to make a decision for myself.
And honestly, I still, like, even before, like, and I had told all the roommates and my ex in the group chat, basically, like, after we buy a home, I'm going to go no contact, you know, so on and so forth. And they all essentially just acted like I said, I'm going no contact now. They threw my boundary back in my face. Not one of them attempted to repair with me. Not one of them attempted to reach out. Not one of them said, like, hey, like, this escalated, like, are we okay? Not a single one of them.
Nobody said, like,
Nobody.
I'm really bummed to hear that you feel like you want to go no contact because I love you and I want a relationship with you.
Yeah.
And that is
And I'm not saying, like, the roommate that we
sad.
had the main issue with, because I didn't expect that from them. But the other two, my ex and the other roommate, I was very, because they had always maintained, oh, I want to stay out of it. I want to stay out of it. I want to stay out of it. And again, for me, you staying out of it is you maintaining your relationship with me and the other person.
And if you're going to stay out of it with me, you need to stay out of it with them. And that's obviously not what was happening.
Correct. And so, you know, I really thought about it, and I thought, like, all right, like, am I going to hold on to these old relationships because they felt safe? Or am I going to put them down and walk away? Because looking back and back over the entirety of the relationship, I'm not at the same place that I used to be. And I don't think that the people in my life in this situation are able to come with me, so to speak. And I said something to Sarah once, and she, like, gave me this look, and it was interesting. I said, sometimes you have to leave people where they're at. And I said that in reference to them when I told Sarah that I want to move forward with moving out and getting the house with her and really trying to focus on our future, because I believe in our future. I said, she was like, are you sure you want to do that? You've known them forever. They were your family. And I said, well, the thing about chosen family is you can always unchoose them.
Yeah.
And I said, sometimes you have to leave people where they're at
Instead of meet them where they were at. And that was so profound to me. And I think, like, not only is there the trauma of poverty and the trauma of Becca's cancer and the trauma of the everything.
Being trans.
Everything.
Yeah.
But there's the inherent trauma of queerness, which is chosen family is everything.
Yes.
And when you have been systemically removed from normal life as a queer person, right? The inability to get married, the inability to have healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents and family often deny your inherent existence. These are the things that we face as queer people. Chosen family means everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you, as a queer person, you struggle to push back, to have healthy, appropriate boundaries within chosen family, because there is this underlying trauma as queer people of, well, if I don't have my chosen family, then who will I have?
Exactly, yeah.
And I think even more, that makes this scenario even more delicate and painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for me, it was crazy making, and it was devastating, and it was also a really good indicator of my skills, because never once did I lose my shit on them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think only a couple of times did I even, like, yell at you. Like, I think one time I remember being like, this is your fault. You let them do this, you know?
Yeah.
You let them do this by not establishing boundaries, and now it's impacting me. And,
Yes.
and like, I failed to accept the responsibility of, like, I chose to go into this, like, living scenario knowing that there's this great risk of chaos given the level of codependency that exists here. And I have to, I have to own that as we talk about this. So, and I think, like, Talon and I will continue to unpack this. And I will say the one thing that we both agreed on and still agree on is, like, the deep exhale we were able to take, and how much ease life has on the other side of this now. And I don't think I realized, because what do you do when you're in this, like, chaos, when you're living in it for several months, right? Is you just become accustomed to it and you figure out how to live.
Yep.
And then now that we're outside of it, we're like, oh my God, that was impacting my mental health and my physical health so significantly. I didn't even realize.
Yeah. And, like, it's interesting in that, like, I realized how much, I don't want to say how much better, but, like, how different I feel out of that environment with physical distance as well as mental and emotional distance. And I, like, was reminded of how different I feel when I, like, talked, like, I met with my therapist and was kind of, like, telling her about the house and our chaotic, like, move in, not even, like, move out, but, like, move in here. The bat in the garage and no food in the fridge.
Neither one of our brothers showing up to move.
Yeah, Sarah and I moved 2 full storage units and stuff at my dad's house,
And, like, let's be real, Talon is handsome and fabulous and wonderful, but my boy is, like, 5'6" and skinny.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he has some muscles, but he's little. I have a back injury.
Yeah, I'm not as, like, deadlifter strong as I used to be.
Yeah, we were a fucking mess.
Yeah, lots of breaks. But
the move was rough.
Yeah, but, like, telling my therapist all that, and then I kind of, like, I always feel like I have to tell my therapist everything. And it was really cool that I told her, essentially, she was like, well, what's going on with, like, your ex and all that? How was the move out? And I was like, oh, it was horrible. I don't want to get into it. And I gave her a very short, brief thing. And we talked a little bit about it. And then I continued to, like, and then we moved on, and it didn't even take up, I don't know, it took up maybe 20 minutes of my hour session. And at the end of it, she was like, I just want to tell you, like, how different you sound, you look. She was like, because she had been seeing me, throughout the living situation. And she was like, you look so different. And she was like, it's very cool. She said this to me, and this was, like, a huge deal for me. She was like, it's very cool to hear you speak differently about yourself. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, when we first started seeing each other again 3 years ago, she was like, I feel like you and she said this, like, no prompting. And she was like, I feel like you very much spoke of your ex like they were better than you. They were more far along than you, and that you had to catch up, and that they were this, and she was like you put them on a pedestal. And I was like, okay. And she was like, you're not speaking about them like that anymore. She was like, I just want to tell you, like, how different you have become in the last year and a half of us working together. She was like, I'm really proud of, like, all the progress you're making for yourself.
Yeah.
And that was, like, so validating, because I didn't tell her, I didn't tell her in any detail, like I said here. She got, like, 2% of what I've said here, even. And it was really cool to, like, hear her be like, you're speaking about yourself differently.
Well, and I think, like, from my perspective too, the situation was so crazy making and so chaotic. And did Talon and I do everything perfectly? No. But we also can walk away from this knowing that we lived our values and advocated for ourselves and that we weren't inherently unkind. I know there were moments that was kind of snippy.
Totally. I'm very snippy.
Yeah.
When I'm in duress, I absolutely, it's a flaw.
There were snippy moments, but there weren't abusive moments, and
towards each other or towards them.
Yeah. And for me, it was really beautiful to watch Talon step into this behavior that represents self-respect and self-love. I believe that self-love is not a state that we achieve or arrive at, but that it's a culmination of millions of tiny choices. And to see Talon say, no, this doesn't work for me. No, I don't accept that behavior in my life any longer. I'm not going to take accountability and responsibility for the outcome of this because you chose to ignore things that shouldn't have been ignored for so long. I was really proud of the arrival at those choices and that behavior. And like from the person that I was when I first sat on that bed in that mirror and said, why do you put this person on a pedestal, to now, do I wish that they were still in your life and we hadn't have gone through all of that? Absolutely. And if one person, one family system exiting our lives means stepping into creating relationships that serve us and that we can serve others in, and choosing self-respect, I think if the outcome of that choice is the loss of relationships, I am grateful that that was the choice that you made, because relationships should not hurt us more than they help us. Yeah. And I do think that those particular relationships, to no significant fault of everybody's, but certainly to some fault of everyone's, but I don't ever think with the intention of fault, did you all probably hurt each other more than you helped each other once you had gotten out of, and this is you and your ex specifically, once you had gotten out of that significant survival phase and you guys weren't, ramen eating, having to ride bikes, take the city bus, selling your cars to make rent. Once you guys were out of that scenario and into like a more stable life, you didn't have to help each other anymore the way you had previously. And that was the opportunity to transition into less codependency, more healthy dynamics. And you guys just weren't able to do that. And so in that way, it's like it was hurting you more than it was helping you then.
Yeah. And I also want to point out, and I want to own that, like, I don't think that I would have, if I had kept them in my life, and this isn't a criticism on them. This is a reflection of me.
Yeah, you owning your choices.
Yep. I do not think that I would have been able to make the choices that I made and live what I know my values are as cohesively, as smoothly, as easily if I had continued to keep them in my life. And that's because for me, sometimes because life has been really hard, I will just choose the easy thing, even if it's not the right thing. And like, they won't ever hold me fully accountable for my behavior and my actions because
that's the family system. That's the way it works because they, quote, love me because I was a part of the family. And so, like, by choosing not to have them in my life, I am choosing a higher level of accountability for myself. And I am choosing technically a harder road. I chose to keep people in my life who are going to look at me and be like, you don't get to act like that. That's not okay. And again, this is not a criticism on them, but like looking back, I don't ever remember them saying anything like that to me ever in 10 years. And I can tell you, I did some things that were not okay in the last 10 years of my life, many of them. So, as I guess as hard as it is to have people who love you turn around and say that behavior is not acceptable, I think that you made a mistake or whatever. I'm glad that was the decision I made because I want to hold myself accountable.
What's the only way to have sustainable relationships?
Yeah, completely. And I have, again, my two best friends I've known forever, who I talk to every day, and they are the first people to be like, bro, that is not, I don't agree with that. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think that that's okay, you know. And they've been like a pretty big, I don't know, pillar in my life in calling me on my shit. And yeah, sometimes it's easier to be with people who won't, but the amount of work you have to do to get back to like your morals and living your values is so much more when you have people who won't be like, I don't know about that, my guy.
Yeah.
So, and lucky for me, I have a partner who has no pause when it comes to holding me accountable.
Well,
because...
and again, I think people probably think that I am too firm or something like that, right? And I think people are allowed to think whatever they want, but every choice that I make has to support my recovery and my ability to stay alive.
Yeah. And honestly, like, this whole thing, all of it, honestly, start to finish, really, as silly as it sounds, probably really like was a really good example of like my actions affect people I love.
Yeah.
Them, and more importantly and more intensely, you. Like, my behavior directly affects you and like our future. And my behavior directly affects me.
I wish you had said that first.
I know.
Maybe someday.
I'm working on it. But like, if I'm not okay, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not living my values, how am I supposed to like bring that to our relationship?
Yeah.
And like, when it like push comes to shove, if I'm gonna have people in my life that hold me accountable or not, I want to always choose the people who hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too. Our move was terrible.
Our move was awful.
Our move was awful.
It was the most chaotic
Stuff got so broken.
couple months of our lives, I think. I mean, not really. Our lives have been absolutely bananas, but
Our life together.
we are really settled into some calm here, and it's I can feel my nervous system literally just like, again, deep exhale.
Yeah.
Settle into.
Yeah.
a sense of physical and environmental and emotional safety I've never experienced. And we created that.
Yeah, we did. And I know you want to like wrap this up.
I do.
I think we should have split it into 2 episodes, but
I want to wrap it up now. I'm
I
tired
know
and I
you
want to
do.
do my hair.
but I want to talk about how like in this new environment, you and I are like coming back to
yeah, I mean, let's do a part 2.
ourselves. I do want to talk about that at some point. Yeah. I
Yeah,
wanna talk
let's do
about
a
the
part 2.
Lovey, cute stuff.
Yeah, let's do a part 2.
I want to like talk about the silver lining
I hear
or
you.
whatever.
Let's do a part 2.
Okay. You want to be done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love you.
Are you going to dye your hair?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we got to go to Ace.
Yeah, you gotta go.
I'm going to Ace.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I love you.
I love you too.
Hi, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold, Beautiful Borderline podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your content. That is super helpful for me. It helps us find additional folks who want to listen to the show, want to feel seen, family members who want to learn, and partners who want to understand. If you want to follow along to more than just the podcast, find us on Instagram at Bold Beautiful Borderline, find me at Borderline from Hell, or head over to boldbeautifulborderline.com where there's information, resources, a place to leave a voicemail to be heard on the podcast, which I love, and just general content. All of that information can be found in the show notes. And if you want to get exclusive content, which is bonus episodes, journal prompts, worksheets, all sorts of extra stuff. Sometimes videos of me with my hair very crazy with kind of impulsive borderline rants. Head over to Patreon and consider becoming a member. That is super helpful with creating content that allows me to destigmatize BPD and all of the other wild mental health struggles that we discuss on the podcast. A huge thanks to everyone who joins on the podcast to share their story and just generally helps keep this thing alive. Especially my friend Corey Evans from the Evergreen Band. He produced and created the music that is the intro and outro for this show, as well as the cover art that was created by my husband, Talon Abbott. Their information is found in the show notes. All of the information discussed in the podcast is purely personal experience. This is not medical recommendations. This is not therapy recommendations. There's no producer for this show. It's all me.